I'm going to start with tight ends because you know why? We always
You
put them
hate
towards
ending with
the
them?
end. Yes, and we hate it every single time. So I'm going to start with it this time. I'm going to sneak up from underneath of it and say that no tight end will finish inside the top 20 overall finishers, non-quarterback, asterisk. That's a big thing. So of all the fantasy players here, obviously quarterbacks are going to take up the giant chunk of the top 20 as they typically do, depending on your scoring. I'm going to say that tight ends are, at this point, irrelevant at the top of your draft. So what I mean by this is your elite guys that you consider, your Travis Kelce's, your Mark Andrews, your Darren Waller's is even. None of these guys are going to be worth their current ADPs because they're all going so high. The last time that this happened where no tight end finished inside the top 20 overall, barring non-quarterbacks, was 2016. Every year in between that, there's been at least one. Most years have had multiple. Last year, for example, Mark Andrews finished 8th overall. Travis Kelce, 14th overall. Travis Kelce's on this list every year back to 2016, by the way, just in case you didn't realize that he has been phenomenal. And then there's always some guys sprinkled in. That's kind of the new hotness. Darren Waller was there in 2020. Zach Ertz was there in 2018. Gronk would be there more often if he hadn't gotten hurt so much. But what I want to say about this, and maybe that's unfair to Gronk, but there's always going to be the guys who miss a few games anyways. I mean, George Kittle is probably a shining example of that this year. So why draft a tight end that high? You're hoping that they finish inside the top 20. Travis Kelce, I have a bone to pick with, and I don't want to overlap my bone with your bone because I see that you want to get involved in that too. So I'm going to leave some meat there for you to chew at later. But let's talk about
so many things wrong in that group of sentences you just said.
I think almost everything was right. Perfect. In fact, I could record it, play it back to myself like Tobias from Arrested Development, and I would agree with every single thing still. Let me talk about Mark Andrews so I can let you talk about Travis Kelce. Mark Andrews, for me, is a guy who benefited a whole lot from Lamar Jackson's absence last year. His game splits with and without Lamar Jackson when Tyler Huntley had to come in to take over for him. Night and day. I'm not saying that Mark Andrews was terrible with Lamar Jackson, but he was averaging on pace for the whole season to be more than 65 points off of what his finish was. That's huge for you on a weekly basis because you need a tight end drafted that high to be above just replaceability. You need them to give you something special that the other tight ends are not giving you. And Mark Andrews, I think the appeal is he's the only game in town right now. Marquise Brown is out. Their depth chart at wide receiver looks scary. I'm placing most of my eggs into the Rashad Bateman bucket, however, and that's probably where a lot of us are going to diverge. I believe in Rashad Bateman's talent in this offense, even a little bit more than I did Hollywood Brown's. And he did great things last year. I'm expecting a little bit more to go towards Bateman. I think Andrews is still going to be really good. I just don't think he's going to be top 20 good.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And as you said, mine kind of piggybacks a bit on yours here. So let's get into it. And then if you want to add anything onto it, feel free to do that. So my bold prediction is that Travis Kelce will have less than 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns this season. Yes, that's right. And this is not due to injury. I'm going to say that right now. I don't think he's going to get injured. He's been really healthy his entire career. So I don't see that changing. What has changed is the makeup of this offense. We had Tyreek Hill. He's gone, got his bag of money, and he left town and is in sunny Florida. So automatically you think, hey, Kelce, he's the guy. Like this is the guy. There's no one else there. Wrong. They brought in a bunch of guys. MVS from the Packers. Juju, who has been a wide receiver 1 previously. Am I saying he's going to do that this year? No, that's not what I'm saying. Although I could say it later, we don't know what's going to happen here with the other bold predictions. But they've still got Mecole Hardman. They spent the second round pick on him a couple years ago. He could have that third-year wide receiver breakout this year that everyone likes to talk about. They've got talented players on the team, and I think this is an opportunity that because they have other, we'll say, unproven wide receivers, that they can spread the ball around a bit more. We know that CEH has been banged up essentially his entire NFL career so far. They drafted is that Pacheco in the draft, who is getting some buzz here in camp early. They could be trying to run the ball a little bit more. They got Ronald Jones, so maybe they want to be a little bit more run heavier than what we've traditionally seen out of them the last few years. And since they're not hyper focusing on Tyreek and the speedster of Tyreek taking away all those, drawing the defenses away from the underneath routes with Travis Kelce. And they got Juju, who runs a lot of underneath routes. Like he is a slot underneath guy. He's not a burner. That's what MVS is.
You said slot, correct? I just want to make
Yes.
sure you emphasize that slot.
Slot, yes.
If you say too quick, it has a different connotation. That's all I'm saying.
It really does. And well, it could be that too. We don't know. And I'm not saying that he is, but
no judgment.
And no judgments. Yes. So point being, Kelce and Juju are going to run a lot of routes in the same general area. So that's why I feel like this is going to be the year that Kelce drops off. And I don't believe it's an age thing where he loses a step. I think it's just more of a facet of the offense changing based on Tyreek leaving.
I mean, I agree. I feel like maybe I've persuaded you over time. If I recall correctly, when we did our Chiefs divisional breakdown or the AFC West break, I feel like you gave me a little bit of guff about the Travis Kelce hatred that I was showing there. Maybe it's just because I went too far in one direction or the other. But even saying that, I don't know if I can get on board with the less than 1,000 yards. That's so tough because
that's why it's bold.
That happened was 2015.
I know.
Where you had less of both of these. 2015.
I know. That's why this is bold, Jake. It's bold.
Yes, I understand it's bold, but again, what would you give the odds here of him surpassing one or the other? So either getting 1,000 yards or getting 6 touchdowns where he surpasses one or the other. Like, what do you think are the odds that he at least does that?
I don't know. 0%. 1%.
You are such a liar. You're
1%.
such an absolute liar. You know.
47.
For what it's worth, I really agree with the spreading out the ball theory. And I don't understand why more people don't. I get it. It's Tyreek Hill and he's gone. But yeah, these aren't schlubs that they brought in to fill in the gap. They're better than anything that was behind him last year, him being Tyreek Hill. So